Hey guys, welcome to RouterTech tutorial, and in this chapter 21 of Angular 8 unit testing with Jasmine and Karma, we are going to look at routing. Objective of this video is to understand why and how to use the router testing module and learn to write the unit test cases for routing. Now, before we move ahead with our unit testing, here is a simple example that I have prepared, and in this example, I have prepared 5 routes. First one is the introduction, then is the pipe testing, directive testing, and product list. Now in product list, I have given a list of products, and if I click on any of these products, it will take me to the product detail page, which will be having a parameter that will help us to get the details of the product. And it also has a button, back button. If I click on this, it will take me back to the product list page. So we are going to use this scenario to write unit test case for routing. Now let's go and see the configuration made for the routes. So here you can see I have added the routes variable, which will have configuration for the routes that we have seen on the UI. Now in this case, we have introduction, directive testing, pipe testing, product list, and product detail with their respective component. Also notice that I have added a parameter to the product detail, which will help us to get the details of our product, and this parameter is passed from this product list that I will demonstrate in our coming unit test case. Also, I have added a default path. That means whenever the application is opened for the first time, it should navigate to a default path, and this default path is configured here. Now let's go and see our first unit test case. Now here is a file that I have created for unit testing the routes, and in this case I have imported a lot of functionalities of Angular, and out of them I have included most important one is router testing module. Now this module helps us to set up the routes for our testing, and it replaces the router module in our unit test cases. This is going to be the most important part of our unit test case. Then I have also included router link with href, activated route, and convert to param map. So all these things that I have imported in this file, we are going to use it in our unit test case. Then coming to the next, here I have included a lot of component and their services, as these are part of our routes. Then coming to our test suite, I have declared variables for router app component, then for component fixture, debug element, then for location. Now this location object will help us to interact with the browser's URL, and it will help me to get the normalized URLs from the navigated URL. Then I have created a product service which will be used for demonstrating the product detail component. Then in the test bed configuration, I have included forms module and router testing module. Then notice that the router testing module is included with routes method, which will help us to incorporate the routes that we have declared in the app routing module into our testing. Then the declaration part will include the components and the directives that are part of our routing. Then the providers will contain the services. Now coming to the next before each, here I have created the objects for router and location, also created objects for fixture, debug element, and product service. Then in this case, here you can see I have executed a method of router, that is initial navigation. So this method will set up the initial navigation for our routing and also perform the initial navigation, that is it will help to navigate to the default route. Then in our first unit test case, I have executed fixture.detect changes. Now the fixture.detect changes will force the browser to go to the default route. Now if you notice, I have included our unit test case in a async test zone. Why? Because entire routing operation is a asynchronous operation. Hence we have to include it in a async test zone. Then I'm going to execute fixture.whenstable.then. Once the asynchronous operation is completed, it is going to check or expect location.path to be introduction. Now since when the first time the URL is entered in the browser, it will navigate to the default route, and the default route is introduction. So our path, that is the location.path, will be the introduction, and hence this test case will pass. Then coming to our next unit test case. Now in the first unit test case, we have navigated to our default route. Now in the second unit test case, we are going to navigate from default route to another route. Now in this case, I have included our unit test case in a fake async zone, and first step that I have executed is fixture.detect changes. Now in this case as well, it will navigate to the default route. Then I have taken the list of links using query all by directive, and when I'm saying directive, it's going to include router link with href. That means whatever the links that are present within our code with the router link as the directive, those will be selected. And since this is an array, the 0th link will be the introduction, that is the default link. Then the first link will be the pipe testing. So I'm going to click links of one.nativeElement.click, and this will help us to navigate from the default path to the next path. Now in this case, this path will be pipe testing. I have executed the tick method. Now the tick method will help us to stimulate the passage of time, and since our routing operation is a asynchronous one, it will also help us to execute our expectation after the routing operations are completed. And in this case, we are going to expect location.path, that is the URL in the browser, to be pipe testing, and this test case will pass as well. Now let's see the output on the browser. So I'm going to save this one. Now here you can see both the test cases. First one should test a redirection to default path using async, and the second one should navigate to the path when clicked on a link have been executed successfully. Now you must have noticed that in one test case I have used async, and in another test case I have used fake async. So these are used to demonstrate to you that we can either use any of the async zones that are provided to us using async or a fake async. Then in the third unit test case, we are going to test the flow of navigation from product list to the product detail component. Now let's see the example before that. In this case, we have a product list, and in the product list, I'm going to click on any of the products like this one, and it will take me to the product detail. And if you notice, in the product detail, it is going to navigate with a parameter, that is the title of the product, and this title will help us to get the detail of the product. Then let's see the code for the product list and product detail component. Now in the product list component, we have list of products shown on the UI. Now whenever the user clicks on that one of the links, it will come to this particular method, go to product detail, and in this one I have used router to navigate to product detail and pass the product title with this route. Then in the product detail component, I have injected router and activated route for getting the parameter passed from the product list. Now in this case, I have used activated route.parammap.subscribe, and this will help me to get the parameter that is passed from the product list, and then I'm going to use this parameter and will pass it to the product service.filter product list. Now this filter product list method will get me the exact product for which the title information is passed to it. Now let's go and see the third unit test case. So I have added the third unit test case, and as soon as I have added the third unit test case, it will give me an error, and this is the error that is thrown: cannot read property to lowercase of null. Now this error comes because we have not included the activated route in our providers of test bed. Now I'm going to include that one, and as soon as I include the activated route in our providers of the test bed, it will give another error. Why? Because the activated route has a lot of dependencies, and those dependencies are not included when we are executing our routes in a test zone, and hence it gives a error like this: failed, can't resolve all the parameters for activated route. Now in order to resolve this error, I am going to mock the activated route. Now, so instead of using the actual activated route object, we need to use a mocked object of activated route. Now here I have included the activated route and used value param map of, that is the RxJS off operator, and in this case I have used convert to param map, and here I have passed the title information along with a title of a product. Now this will be helping us to mock the data and pass the dummy information to the activated route present in the product detail component. Then coming to our unit test case. Now in this case again we are going to execute the basic flow, that is from the introduction to the product list and from product list to the product detail page. Now in this case, first thing that I have executed is fixture.detect changes, that is the basic path or the default route we will be navigating to. Then executed the tick. Now here I have purposefully used to demonstrate how to use the router within our unit test case. So router.navigate, and in this case we will be navigating to the product list. Then the tick method to simulate the passage of time. Then we are going to expect location.path to be the product list. That means we have navigated to the product list page. Then again here we are going to execute fixture.detect changes. Now this is executed at this point to load the list of products on the product list page. Then here I have taken out the list of li elements that will be containing the product information, that is the product title and its price. Then here I am going to click on the li element. So li element of 2.nativeElement.click. Now once we click, the product list component has a method that will help us to navigate to the product detail page with a parameter. Then again executed the tick method, and in the expect we are going to check location.path to contain product detail. Then again fixture.detect changes. Now in this step I have created the objects for the product detail component, that is the fixture for the product detail component and or the instance of the product detail component. Then I have executed detail fixture.detect changes. Now this is executed to load the detail of the product for which the parameter is passed from the product list, and here I have executed tick. Then in the next step we are going to expect that the detail component, that is the detail component which contains the product object for the product details dot title to be the given title that we had passed using the activated route. Now here we have mocked the activated routes, hence here whatever the title that we are adding here will be passed to the product detail, and since that title is passed, the product service is going to return us the details of the product which contains this title. So in this case we have unit tested the complete flow of our router navigation from product list to the product detail component. But here we have executed a kind of a end-to-end test. What if I want to unit test only the product detail component? Then let's go and write a unit test case for individually testing the product detail component. Now here is the code that I have created for unit testing the product detail component. Now in this case I have created objects for component and fixture. Then I have also created a spy object for the router which will be created using the Jasmine.createSpy object, and it will be spying on the navigate method. Then in the testbed configuration modules I have declared the product detail component, and in the providers product service is included, and here I have mocked the activated route using the use value and for the param maps. Then here I have created a provider for router Now notice that I have not included the router testing module, and since the router testing module gives us access to the router object, in this case since I have not included it, I have to mock it, and hence I have created this spy object and included this in our providers. So provide router and use value router spy. Now then coming to the unit test case. Now here I'm going to simply execute fixture.detect changes. This will execute the ng-on-init lifecycle hook, and in that lifecycle hook it will execute the activated route subscribe method and also get the product detail information from the service, that is the product service. And here I'm again going to check that component.product title to be the given title. In this example, I have demonstrated that we can individually unit test case a component with the routed parameters. Now let's go and execute this unit test case. Now here you can see the product detail components should test route parameters using activated routes, and in this case individually only the component is tested, and this unit test case is executed successfully. So this is how you can unit test the routing, and I hope you have liked this video and understood it. Do provide us comments, do subscribe, and thank you.